you ever get an opportunity to get in child nutrition, it's a secret. We call it a secret that nobody knows about. It's a wonderful job. And then if you ask me what I do for everyday thing, I couldn't even tell you. It's like whatever's crazy that day is basically what it is. Basically what I wanted to talk about was the food, they call it food insecurity now, which is basically hunger in the school environment. They just it says doctors of the future will no longer treat the human with drugs rather than cure and prevent disease with nutrition. I was just talking about my son. My son was diagnosed with PANDAS, which I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that at all, but it's a controversial thing, and it has to do with his nutrition. So we're kind of trying to watch what he eats. He's only 8, and it's hard to kind of steer the kids away from the processed foods. So we have a lot of more from scratch cooking at Alabaster City Schools. But the biggest thing that I've noticed is with all these changes that we've done is you can be really nutritious, but at the same time you want them to eat it. So you don't want to waste a lot. I just was approached by my board to pass a policy that we will help. If a charitable organization comes to us and we have food that is not being used by the child, that we could give it to them and they could use it for the homeless, which is something new that the state is introducing, and it's kind of back and forth. I even had a teacher yesterday try to get a kid to come through the line to get food to give to her so she could go give it to a homeless person. I said, that's not really the way it works. We have share bowls. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with those, but when a child goes through the school lunch line, they have to take certain components. So if they don't want, because they have to take a fruit or vegetable, that's one of the laws now, and if they don't want it, they can put it in the share bowl. And we have a lot of kids, and you'll see this at all districts, no matter where the district is. A lot of people think we're very affluent because we're Alabaster City Schools, but you would be shocked at some of the stories that I hear, and some of my managers come to me with some of the saddest things. So we have to be open to these stories and just know that they're there and we need to take care of them. But I didn't realize so many people were suffering from hunger, especially in Alabama. Basically, they were saying how there's 59% of parents say that their kids are not getting enough to eat. And I believe that because in schools, we're seeing a lot of kids that are really hurting for nutrition. They don't have the proper food at home, so we have a lot of programs. We have the breakfast program, we have the lunch program. We're part of At Risk. I don't know if y'all have heard of that. We feed after school. So we have snack and supper. So we actually serve 4 meals in a day. So a lot of the kids that have these problems at least get that chance to have all those hot meals at school, which is very good. Hungry children can't learn. That's one of the big things that child nutrition directors have to deal with all the time is, they're always trying to cut into our time as lunch to add to the academic part. I fought a battle a couple years ago. They wanted to move we only have one high school. They wanted to move us to a power hour is what they call it. It's big all over the state. It's big all over the United States, where it's 1 hour where all the kids can go wherever they want, which includes your lunch. Well, all the schools across the state have seen a big dive in their lunch numbers, which to me, that's kids not getting something to eat. And I'm going to use, like the Oak Mountain area, like schools like that have 3,000 kids. They'll only feed 400 people because they'd rather, go talk with their friends or whatever. But we have 4 blocks at our high school, and we have 2,200 kids in our high school, and we feed 1,800 of them, and I'm very proud of that. Every day, that includes a la carte, but I would definitely say that our high school feeds more of the population than most high schools do. You usually see about 30–40% of the population eating. And still I have students that come up to me and say they don't have time because we have to feed 1,800 people in 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I tell everybody, imagine 29 school buses pulling up at McDonald's at the same time. That's basically what we do. So we want to make sure that we feed them while we have them at the school. In 2017, an estimated 1 in 8 Americans were food insecure, which means that 1 in 8 Americans didn't know where their next food was coming from. And I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I feel like children and animals are kind of the same. They don't ask for the situation, so let's try to help them out. And Alabama is one of the highest food insecure states. 1 in 5 kids grow up hungry in Alabama. I was a little shocked by this. 822,109 Alabamians went to bed not knowing where their next meal would come from. Almost 1 million people in Alabama. Making us the 5th most food insecure state in the country. So y'all have a big task ahead of you to try to make sure that these children get fed. Are y'all familiar with the free and reduced program? We do. I'm telling you, I didn't know about it until I got into child nutrition, and then I found out later on. I was telling my sister, because I'm an Army brat, and I was telling my sister about it. She said, Heather, we were reduced our whole lives. What are you talking about? I said, what? She said, yes, we were reduced. You know, don't you remember the different color tickets? They don't do that anymore. That was back in the 70s and 80s. But now a kid comes through and it's called overt identification. We can't say, hey, you're a free student, you're a reduced student. So that program really works, because I had no idea that we didn't pay the same price as somebody else that comes through the line. I think that I would have been a little embarrassed probably at that age, because how peer pressure is. But it actually works, and kids get fed, and it's amazing. Hopefully they won't pull any of that, you know, I'm trying to say funding, because I know they were trying to get a lot of the SNAP funding, and I don't know if y'all have been reading about that, but 22% of all children in Alabama live in households that couldn't always afford enough food. 12,000 of working adults suffer food insecurity. I have my managers could probably tell you 5 kids in every one of their schools that they know are going hungry. And it's amazing to me how the parents will call us and tell us not to feed them because they're supposed to bring their own lunch and they're not paying for lunch. In our policy in Alabaster, which is not the policy in every school in the state, we'll feed them no matter what. They get charged, and the parent always takes that attitude. Some particular parents take the attitude of, if they don't have the money, then they're not supposed to eat. That's on you, because you're charging their account. And when I worked at the State Department for 6 years, and it just, to me, I think that you put a hot meal in somebody's hand and you take it away from them when they're at the register, you're just throwing it away. So to me, I say you're going to end up spending more money if that's what you're looking at. So I would rather take that stigma away. And I don't know did y'all see on ABC 3340, Connecticut just passed a lunch shaming law where you cannot lunch shame at all. So that means they can't take the food away from the child. Because me personally, I think that the child has nothing to do with it. It is not something that now in high school, you know, you can have some situations where you're like, come on now, you know that you can't have that Diet Coke or whatever it is that they want. But these children don't pick where they get to be born into, and they don't get to pick their situations, and neither do the adults sometimes. So I always am very passionate about that. I want to make sure our managers and our customers are taken care of, and our staff knows they always are on the lookout for children that they can kind of tell. You can just tell. I don't know if y'all have been around kids, but you can tell when they don't have enough to eat. And we really encourage them to take as many fruits and vegetables as possible. I tell all my managers, serve as many fruits. If they want to take all the fruits and vegetables that we have to offer, it could be 5 in a daily, because we have 4 choices of entrees. Let them have it. They can't have 2 entrees, but they can have as many fruits and vegetables as they can, which is great for nutrition, and it's not really that much for calories, depending on how it's cooked. But also, we don't have a state minimum wage in Alabama, so we go by the federal minimum wage, which is $7.25, and I don't know if any of y'all have made $7.25 an hour before. When I started in I'm embarrassed to say, fast food. I worked at Wendy's. That was my first job, made $4.25 an hour. And I got 10-cent raise, went home. I was only 16. My mom was like, that doesn't even pay for your taxes. I was like, well, thanks. I was so excited. Now I'm not very excited at all. I was thinking, 10 cents is a lot. No, not really. So it's hard to imagine having to actually support a family making $7.25 an hour. It's just shocking to me. So it goes from high insecurity to very low insecurity on food. We have areas that definitely are low, but we do have those areas that are very high food insecure. And those are the areas that we have these sections. In summer feeding, we do summer feeding in Alabaster, and we serve 45,000 meals in summertime. And we have the pockets of poverty in our area that really, we have churches and parks that we serve meals at, and it's amazing to me how many kids come to those that don't get a meal otherwise, and their kids, the parents are at work or whatever that might be. But they face hunger every day. 21% of the children in households are at risk for hunger, may be forced to rely exclusively on charitable organizations. Have y'all ever worked at a charitable organization like Hannah Home or like Hannah Manna Ministries is what we have in Alabaster? They give out food on Saturdays to all the families. It's pretty amazing. Actually, there's several charitable organizations in downtown Birmingham that help with that, but you don't see it really in the suburbs as much. And if a child is hungry, they're going to struggle in school. So they're going to, they might repeat a grade. They'll have developmental and impairments and social and behavioral problems. I'm not sure if any of y'all have experienced hunger in your lifetime, but I know when I was hungry when I was growing up, you tend not to concentrate as much. You're just thinking, I've got to get something to eat, and you're not really listening to what the teacher has to say. And then it actually can increase missing school because of the sicknesses that you have. It causes irritability, low self-esteem, feel ashamed of not getting enough food to eat. And they're not going to talk about it at school. So usually teachers and staff members are the ones that are going to be able to see it. So you can kind of see the signs, and these are the signs that we tell teachers to look for. If they ask about food every day and are not picky, they're suddenly losing weight or gaining weight. If they hoard snacks and food, I've seen kids at tables like, hey, are you going to eat that? Are you going to eat that? And they're putting it in their pockets, and that's when we've had several kids try to steal things, and my managers have to pull them aside and say, listen, if something's going on, you let me know and I'll help you out. And we're going to feed it to you. We're not going to not feed it to you, and we don't want you to steal it. Bully others or behave badly, poor attention span, memory, and trouble concentrating, hyperactive and impulsive, and aggressive and antisocial behavior, probably because of how they're feeling. So we tell them what to do. Tell the teachers that they need to not single them out. If they see them, don't embarrass them in front of the other kids. Maybe get the guidance counselor. I have parents all the time call me about our program, and they're looking for other assistants, and I'm like, listen, there's assistants a lot of places you wouldn't believe. So I always steer them towards the counselor because the counselor is more aware. We have backpack buddies. Have y'all heard of that? So those are backpacks that some kids can take home for the weekend. So that gives them food on the weekends. Also work with local food banks to help students get enough food for nights and weekends, and also, volunteer at food banks. I know that our superintendent especially gets very concerned about our long breaks, like Christmas break and summer. That's why we do summer feeding, because that's a long period of them not getting consistently a meal in front of them. So you got to think these kids might not get it other than school. So we have the school breakfast program, the backpack program for weekends, after school snack. We do the summer food service program, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of SNAP. So a lot of kids are on free lunch because they are participants of SNAP and TANF. I don't know if you know what TANF is, but it's temporary assistance for needy families. So why do schools matter? Meals matter because, like of all the reasons I just said, they're in school most of the time during the day, and from what I've heard, I don't know if you've heard this through the grapevine, but they're thinking about changing the dates on due to what they're trying to increase tourism in South Alabama. So they're trying to get us to not start school till later on than we normally do. And so that could affect the start and end of day. It's like they're talking 8 to 5 o'clock, the kids would be going to school, which I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if that will work or not, but we'll see, won't we? That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody? Yes. Yeah.
I've done a lot of work with college food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you knew about what's going on in that area in Alabama. I'm a Minnesota girl, so
Oh.
what's going on down here.
I know when I was in college, I ate a lot of ramen noodles. I don't know about y'all, but yeah. I mean, I didn't grow up with somebody paying for my schooling, so, and then I had to pay for living expenses, so it's really tough. I think there should be more out there for college students. I think there's a lot of things that they get missed out on.
Can I answer that question?
Yes.
So, and there are probably several students from some of the area universities that are here, and I know some of my UAE guys probably talk more about Laser Kitchen, the Laser Pantry that's on site there for university, and then maybe some Stanford and some Model Valley students. So I know many of the universities are, over the last several years, becoming naturally increasing aware and probably has a different mechanism at each institution. So everybody welcome her to the state of Alabama and share with her from your various institutions what you guys are doing for college student food insecurity.
I know Mona Valley has it's a campus food pantry that they do for any enrolled students facing any kind of food insecurity or hunger.
Where's that? Maybe the food bank card.
I don't know. I think that's really good for me. Yeah. I mean, they started it not too long ago.
I bet that would be kind of hard to do, though. I mean, are they going to really go there? Because I know we have that problem in even in high school. The kids that are free and reduced tend to not participate as much as we want them to because they're afraid that people will look at them differently. I don't know if that would be the same case with colleges, but I'm just curious. Anything else, anybody? All right, well, thank y'all.